Hi, I'm Andrew Pierce. I'm the Assistant Director for the EPICS program here at Purdue University. This is the first Professional Development Hour, or PDH, for new students to the EPICS program. In this session, I'm going to walk you through some of the basics of what EPICS is all about. We'll talk a little bit about how you'll be graded or assessed in the EPICS program. We'll cover some basics of the safety and emergency procedures that we'll use within the EPICS courses. And then I'll give you a little bit of an overview of what to expect in EPICS during the coronavirus here in spring 2021. So some of the characteristics of the EPICS program here at Purdue, we're a community-based design course. So the class is intended to teach you design, and the way that we do that is by partnering a team of undergraduates with a community organization, whether in Greater Lafayette or around the world, to work on a real-world hands-on problem. All of our teams are centered around a long-term partnership with a community organization. So some of our partnerships go back more than 20 years, and we often do more than one project at a time for a given partner. All of our teams are vertically integrated, and that means we have first-year students through senior capstone students working hand in hand on a project, and they're all multidisciplinary. So we have students from across the university. And this is intended to replicate how a team works in industry. You very rarely have a team of all mechanical engineers or all management students working together on a team. You have cross-functional, multidisciplinary teams with people of different experience levels working together to solve a problem. And EPICS really works best as an extended design experience. So students who take EPICS for multiple semesters, having that same real-world problem or a couple problems in a row, that they're working on, and then you go and take your other classes, you learn new things, and you can apply them into that problem, are the best way that this course works. So our educational philosophy is really driven around real-world projects, providing a really rich learning opportunity. So if you have the chance to work on something that someone's really going to use, it means a lot more than a theoretical problem would, and it's going to provide you with a lot of opportunity to learn how to deal with complex, messy problems where maybe you have a community partner that doesn't really know what they want. Happens all the time in industry as we work on problems. It's also going to help you promote your professional development by replicating that industry environment. So if you're used to working in this environment where problems are poorly defined, people change their mind, things change, then whenever you get into those situations in industry, you'll be ready for it. It'll feel familiar. And it gives you a safe space to make mistakes while you take the lead in design. So when you graduate and you go out into whatever your professional career might be, and you make mistakes, they can have a really significant impact. You can certainly have bad things happen in EPICS, but it's awfully nice to have your advisor and your TA and the support structure there to help you get through those mistakes. The learning objectives for EPICS, there are several. First of all, disciplinary knowledge. So whatever discipline you're coming from, whatever your major is, we expect you to grow and develop those skills for your discipline. You're going to learn a design process, and that's one of the main things that we will lecture at you through these first professional development hours. Learning this way of thinking, how to think through a problem in a stepwise fashion, is so important and so useful. You're going to learn how to be a lifelong learner. You're going to encounter things in the EPICS program that you need to know or know how to do that you haven't formally gotten instruction on. You're going to have to learn how to go out and use your resources to develop that new understanding or new skills. And those skills that skill of how to learn on your own is going to benefit you throughout your career. And you're going to learn to work with customers. You're going to learn to work in a team or take on leadership roles. We'll have written and formal communications at a level you probably haven't done before. And you're going to learn about how to be ethical and make ethical decisions and how to work in a number of different social contexts. So it's really a rich environment for you to learn a lot of new skills. So kind of bringing that together, EPICS can be a transformational experience, both personally and professionally. I took EPICS several times as an undergrad a long time ago. And I can tell you, for me, it was this transformational experience. I'm not the same person personally, or have not followed the same career trajectory that I would have if I had not taken EPICS. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity, and I hope that you can find that in your experience here as well. It's going to be great preparation for you to become a leader, whether it's in industry, government, your community, whatever your professional future holds. the skills you learn here, how to work with people, how to understand people and solve complex problems, are going to serve you really well in those situations. And last but not least, EPICS will be what you make of it. If you're just here to get a course credit and a grade and move on, and you're going to put in the minimum amount of work to do that, you're not going to get a lot out of this class. But if you really bring your passion and enthusiasm, you can get a lot out of this, and it can be a really meaningful experience for you. So I encourage you to throw yourself in wholeheartedly. The course structure for EPICS kind of works this way. You may be a 1 or 2 credit hour student. Either way, you're going to be in lab for 2 hours a week. That's the real core of this experience when you're meeting with your advisor and your TA to get that mentorship and coaching. But you're also going to have to work outside of lab. If you don't work outside of lab, you really don't have enough time to make meaningful progress in your project. So if you're a 1 credit hour student, we expect about 3.5 hours of work outside of lab, and you'll document that in your notebook. If you're a 2 credit hour student, that goes up to about 5 hours a week outside of lab. And then you'll have these professional development hours. So if you're a first-time student, and you're a 1 credit hour student, you will have 5 required PDHs. If you are a 2 credit hour student, you're going to have the 5 required PDHs plus some elective ones. This is our schedule for this semester. This is going to be on Brightspace and on our website. It's pretty easy to find. We call it the milestone schedule. There are a couple important things for you to note. One is our design reviews. So we have design reviews week 6, which is February 22nd to 26th, and April 19th to 23rd, that's week 14. So those are the times when we invite guests in from local industry and we present our work to them. Those will be all remote this semester in light of the pandemic, but do be prepared for those. And we typically around those times have all of the rest of your documentation submitted for grading. So we'll have the midterm grades right after that week 6 design review. We'll do midterm grades week 7. And then after the final design review, you'll submit all of your final documentation during week 15. We are going to respect all of the reading days, so there won't be any lab on reading days this semester. So I mentioned the sort of core experience that you'll have in EPICS is really built around the lab meeting. That's 2 hours a week. In order to de-densify and support social distancing, we're usually meeting a smaller subset of the team at a time. So if you have a 2-hour lab meeting, half the team may meet the first hour and half the team the second hour, or something similar to that, to make sure that we're staying under the occupancy limits that we have imposed from COVID. And so you will meet the very first week remotely. So you should hear from your advisor or TA where that team meeting will be. It'll be through Microsoft Teams. And during that first meeting, you're going to figure out what project team you're on. And then starting week 2, if you're an in-person student, you will come into class to meet during the time assigned to you. If you're a remote student, then you'll join through Teams during that same time, and you can collaborate with your team over Teams whenever they're meeting outside of that time with the advisor in the conference room. So look for that information to come to you really soon. During the time that you're in lab, your project manager and design lead are gonna meet with you. They're gonna present what we call PIGs, which are progress, issues, and goals, or some other form of update to the TA and advisor on what is the work you're doing, what are your goals for the week ahead, and where do you need help? And your TA advisor are gonna coach and mentor you through that. So they're really your go-to people for any kind of help in the class. You're welcome to contact myself or any of the rest of the staff as well at any time. Outside of lab, what kind of work are you doing? You'll continue to make progress toward your project completion. So accomplishing those project goals. So that may be working in our lab space on your project. It may be doing research or other documentation. You're going to complete your notebook and reflections. So those are requirements that we'll have every week. So your notebook is where you're going to record the work and accomplishments that you have on any given week. And then we write reflections to help connect that information back to your broader learning. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. Any communications that you do with your project partner can be done in that time. And then you can always contact your TA and advisor through Microsoft Teams outside of your lab time to get additional coaching or help on the project. So one of your major requirements in the course are these professional development hours. So if you're a first-time student, there are 5 required professional development hours. We also offer a number, usually 70 to 80 different elective PDHs in a given semester. So if you want to take more of those, you're more than welcome to take as many as you want. The 5 per credit hour is just a minimum. So this is the kind of breakdown. If you're a first-time student, which you probably are if you're watching this, and you're a 1 credit hour student, there are 5 required PDHs. They're all in Brightspace. That is this PDH that you're watching right now. There'll be 3 on the design process, and the last one is on ethics. That's all you have to do. So complete those in Brightspace, check them off, and you're done. If you are a first-time student, but you're a 2 credit student, so that would mean you're taking 102, 202, 302, or 402 for the most part, then you're going to do those 5 required PDHs and the PDH plan and report to show the other 5 PDHs you're going to do. If you're a returning student and you're watching this, whether you're 1 or 2 credit hours, you're going to complete the PDH plan and report, and those can be submitted through Brightspace as well. So what to expect in your first meeting, it's going to be remote. So again, you'll be meeting over Microsoft Teams. You're going to meet your team members. Your TA will probably give you an overview of how EPICS works. Again, some of the same information. Because it is a non-traditional class, it takes a bit of time to get used to it. So don't panic if you feel a little lost at the beginning. You'll get an overview of active and new projects. That'll probably come from returning team members. If there aren't any, then it'll probably be your advisor or TA walking you through what the projects are. You'll determine which project you're going to be a part of. So your TA and advisor will have a method to assign people to projects, and you'll get a voice in that as well. And then you'll determine team roles. There are a number of leadership roles on each team, and we want to get those assigned as early as possible. And then you'll plan a visit to your project partner, or how you're going to interact with your project partner during that first week. Some of the team roles, we have our project manager. This is the head student for the team. So this is the student that's going to take the lead every week, guide the team on what they need to get done, and make sure everybody's staying on schedule. So they're the kind of head honcho. Underneath them come the design leads. So on any given team, we have multiple projects. The head of each project is the design lead. We also have the project partner liaison. So these are the main student who contacts the community partner. And we do that so that they're not getting emails from 10 different students on any given week. We have a financial officer. So in order to build your project, you're going to need to manage some amount of money. And so the financial officer will submit a budget for your team. They will submit grants for your team, and they will put in purchase requests for anything that you need to buy. Our communications officer is the student who's in charge of maintaining the team's website. So every team has a student-run website, Twitter account to post updates on what the team is doing each week, and then also any student-to-student recruiting. So if your team say, we really need somebody who's great at a particular technical skill, you can go out and recruit that for the coming semester. And then last but not least is the project archivist. This is the student who's in charge of making sure that all of the team documentation is complete. They are not required to do all the documentation, but they manage the documentation and make sure that it all gets done. So this is kind of a schematic view of how the team organization works. You have the project manager here at the top in the center, and they are really the lead for the team. Underneath them come the design leads. So those are the leads of any given project, and the project members report to them. And then we have the TA and advisor are up here in this sort of coaching and mentorship role. So they're there to support the work that you're doing. So in summary, on the lab, all your team members will meet in lab or virtually every week. You're really going to have to work outside of lab to be successful in EPICS. You can't just show up for the 2 hours and think that that's going to suffice. Make sure that you're getting your 5 PDHs done per credit hour, and make sure you take advantage of the many leadership opportunities that you have in EPICS. Next up, we're going to talk about grading. So grading in EPICS is a little bit different. We don't have quizzes or exams other than the quizzes that we use to make sure that you completed your PDHs, and those are just for completion, so the scores don't matter there. So no stress on exams and quizzes. It's really all about getting this project done. Your grading is going to simulate a industry performance appraisal. So for me as a professional, I have to have an annual review every year. It was that way when I was in industry. It's that way here in the university, where you sit down with your manager, they walk you through things you're doing well, things that you need to work on, and this is how you grow and develop and get better at what you do. And so in our midterm grading, we conduct these performance appraisals in much the same way. So they're going to reflect a number of things. One is your course outcomes. How well did you master the 5 course outcomes? And we'll go over those in just a second. Did you complete all the required assignments? Did you complete all these PDHs? And how's your attendance? So make sure that you're attending lab every week. If you have to miss for some reason, if you're quarantined or sick or some other reason, make sure that you're communicating that with your advisor and TA, because undocumented absences can really hurt your grade. The grading outcomes, the things that we're looking for you to master through the course, are accomplishing project goals. So we want to see that you're working every week and that you're making progress toward completing the actual project. The next one up is design process. We want to see that you're utilizing the design process and learning to think in a process-driven way. So the next 3 PDHs are going to teach you that process and teach you this mindset to think through problems in a systematic way to make sure that the solution you get actually meets the need of the user. The next one is your teamwork or leadership skills. So we'll do peer reviews twice a semester, and that information goes a lot into how we assess you for teamwork and leadership, as well as our own observations of you during class. Your communication skills, there's going to be written documentation and the oral presentations through the design reviews, and you'll be assessed on those. And then last is critical thinking or reflections. We'll talk a little bit more about reflections in a bit, but they're really important to what we do. So we want to see you accomplishing, again, this mindset of thinking in a reflective way and learning how to get better all the time. It's a mode of continuous improvement for you. So reflections is the next thing up. Again, it's really the purpose of reflections are you to connect the experiences you have with your broader learning, and to stop and think, next time I see this type of experience again, next time I have to make this type of decision again, how could I do it better than I did last time? So your reflections are not a record of your achievements. This should not be the place where you just write, this week we did A, B, and C as a team, but instead they're intended to help you connect with your broader learning by saying, what did this mean to me professionally? What did this mean to my community partner? Why was this important thing that happened? Reflections are required weekly. The most common format will be writing them in your notebook, but your team may also do group reflections, group discussions, communicate over online forums or other modes, so they don't have to always be individual writings. It's really important that you get connected very quickly and update your EPICS design notebook. So all of the notebooks are in your team's Microsoft team. So on those team sites, there'll be a notebook tab at the top, and you will make yourself a tab within that notebook with your name. And that's where you will record your individual work and accomplishments. So that's your individual work. Show us what you are doing each week. Take videos, take pictures, write lists, whatever it is that you are doing on a given week, put evidence of it there. So for your grades and EPICS, we have to have evidence to support everything you do. So if you want to show work and accomplishments, you need to show evidence and artifacts that you did work and made accomplishments. Next, you're going to show your ideas, your decision-making process. This is where we're really looking within your notebook to see that you're following the design process and implementing that in your work. You'll record interactions with the community partners or other resources that you may connect on or off campus, all of your contacts, those types of things. And then there'll be a separate tab for your reflections. It's important to understand, again, in EPICS, we will give you the highest grade that you show evidence to support. And so even if you do a lot of work, but you don't document it, your grade will not be good. So it's very much equivalent to if you were in a traditional class, you worked really hard, you studied a lot, and then you didn't take your exam or didn't fill the whole exam out. Your grade isn't going to come out very good. So please make sure that you're doing a good job showing us documentation of the work that you've done. The main piece of team documentation, so your notebook is your individual documentation. The main piece of team documentation is your design document. This is a complete history of the project. The intent is that someone else of an average skill level could follow through your design document and replicate the work you did and understand why you did it the way you did. And so this is really important. I was a biomedical engineer when I was in industry, and in medical devices, we had to keep what's called a design history file. It's the same idea, and we'd have to submit those to the FDA in order to get something approved and on the market. So this type of documentation can be very important to you in your career. Learning how to do it now, it's not always a lot of fun, but it's very useful and functional. So make sure that you do a good job with that. And those will be due week 5, 10, and then at the end of the semester. So summary of your grading, make sure that you're recording everything in your notebook. Make sure that you're doing a reflection every week. Make sure that the reflections are reflections, not just a recitation of your work and accomplishments. Make sure that you make use of your midterm feedback. So when we do those performance evaluations, we will give you really specific feedback. At the end of the semester, we will look specifically to see if you acted upon and improved on the things we talked to you about. So make sure that you take that feedback seriously. And then last, everyone can earn an A in EPICS. It's not a class that there's a limit. You're not going to be curved or anything like that, but you have to earn it. You have to show the documentation and artifacts that you actually did the work, put in the work, and mastered the outcomes. Next up, I'm going to talk about the resources for the EPICS program. So we have a number of labs that you can use. Our main prototyping lab is Armstrong 1098. So that's the long room on the first floor of Armstrong with the glass windows. There is within there electronics prototyping, large project prototyping. There are sort of craft supplies to do rapid prototyping. We have 3D printers. All those things are available to you. Downstairs underneath that, we have our build lab. That's an ARMS B103. That's a simple fabrication lab where you can do woodworking, things like that. Tools are available to you there. So take advantage of that. All of those rooms do have a limit to capacity during COVID. So make sure you plan out your time when you're going to be working in there when it's not overcrowded. We do have a computer lab. It is not going to be available during the pandemic. So ARMS 1095, our computer lab, will not be there for you to use computers. We can use it for a little bit of project storage. So make sure you talk to us before you put anything in there, but that is available. Next up, so project supplies. Our projects are supported by corporate sponsorships. So we get sponsors that will provide the materials that you need to do the project. So please be courteous with those. We do keep common items that you might use in stock, like cardboard, scissors, glue, resistors and breadboards, things like that. If there's something you need that you can't find, please feel free to ask, and we can order those things. So that's for common supplies. For specific supplies to build your project or your prototypes, you will need to purchase those. Please do not buy things with your own money and ask us to reimburse you. We can't do it. We just don't have a mechanism to pay you back. So the university doesn't let us do that. So please don't do that. If you need to purchase things, have your team's financial officer complete a purchase request form. Through the purchase request form, you can order supplies from websites online, or you can check out a credit card and go purchase things at local stores. So either one of those is okay. Just don't use your own money, so we can't reimburse you. So please don't do that. Your team budgets will be due week 4. You have $200 to spend before you submit a budget. So if you're going to spend less than that, that's fine. That's to allow you weeks 1, 2, and 3 to start prototyping without having to wait for your budget to be approved. We'll approve the budgets starting at the end of week 4, going into week 5, and then you can spend more money. You will request the money through the budget form that is linked on the Brightspace page or on the website. It's pretty easy to find. Typically, the year-long team budget is around $1,200. Teams certainly can spend more and less than that, but that just gives you a sort of feel for about what is normal. Those are due week 4, but we will continue to accept new ones as long as there's money left. If you're putting in a budget after week 4, all of our grant monies may be gone. So make sure that you get those done week 4. If you under budget or over budget, you can always submit a new budget later and revise them as the semester goes forward. We have a lot of resources for you in EPICS. Some important ones on the web are the Brightspace page. That's where you can find due dates and submit all of your assignments. So all those things in the milestone schedule will show up there. You can check your attendance and you can view your grades. We also have a collaboration space in Microsoft Teams. We've mentioned it several times. It's a great place to do team collaboration. A lot of your teams will use GroupMe or some other thing, but you can do all of that within Teams and keep it sort of a one-stop shop. You have file storage there through Teams, so you can dump any of your team files in, and those will be saved in the EPICS program for the students coming in the next semester, where if you put them in Google Docs or something like that, we won't have access to them and they can be lost. Really easy to do virtual meetings through Teams. So you have a channel for your whole team and for each of your projects there. You can always hit meet now or schedule a meeting at the project or team level directly through Teams. It's really easy to do. And you can also do informal chats through Teams or phone and video calls. So it's a really great tool for you. I suggest you use it. And your notebooks are already there, so you're going to be in Teams anyway. So in summary on this section, we provide you with a lot of resources, but you got to be proactive and seek them out. So if you are passive and you don't ask for help, we won't know to give you help. We have 14 TAs this semester and a number of advisors. They're all a resource pool for you, and we all have good networks within the university to help you find other resources. So if you need some resource that your TA or advisor is not an expert in, somebody that we have in our network is an expert in it. So we will get you that help if you're proactive and ask for it. So don't be shy. Nobody knows how to do everything. That's why we work in a team. Make sure you make use of the online and physical tools. Teams is a great tool. The labs are great for your assistance. If you need anything or have any feedback on those at any time, please let us know. We're here to help.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jorge Martinez, and I'm the lab manager, and I also work with Dr. Oaks in the coordinating with other universities, the EPICS program. You may have heard before, EPICS is not just limited to Purdue. There are other universities nationwide that has the same program. Next, please. We'll be talking about what are we doing to implement Protect Purdue guidelines. By now, you have heard this before. You probably know where to go to a website to understand what the Protect Purdue is. But in EPICS, what it means is for us to look for a safe place for you to come work and do your projects for our wonderful partners. There are three-pronged plans, or there's a three-pronged part to the plan. Number one is reducing the room capacity. Before, in other semesters, we have had rooms where capacity of 25 to 30 individuals. Will have to reduce those, or have been reduced to about 12 seats, and that's primarily to maintain that distance between physical distance between people. However, we also look at how to maintain the collaboration person to person. Typical classroom, you sit down kind of looking toward a wall with a whiteboard. In this particular case, we have sittings arranged so you have face-to-face collaboration, obviously with physical distance. That requires having additional personal protective equipment, which is the PPE in that. So we will be required to use not only the face mask, as you mentioned in Protect Purdue, but you will also have to use face shields. Using nitrile gloves is also encouraged. It's not required, but it is strongly recommended. We're also providing additional cleaning. In the past, we've had undergrad teaching assistants that are present in the lab to help the students work in their project, and that has always been limited to the evenings or late afternoons. Right now, with the situation, we're trying to make sure that everything that is touch, tools, and things like that are common to many people are sanitized, are clean, and put back in circulation, and that requires having undergrad TAs that are going to provide that support to us, and also monitor how many people are in each room, and kindly asking people when we have to kind of separate and things like that. So you can expect some kind of supervision, but not hard supervision. It's actually other students like you, as students at Purdue, students have been in EPICS before that understand the needs and trying to kind of make the room or the space more safe for you and for everybody else. We're also balancing how many hours we have the lab open. Through evaluating when students come typically in the class to work in projects and understanding a little bit the type of activities that are carried. We have been able to reduce the number of lab hours, but maintaining the main core of when people really come to work. So you can expect weekdays that are with lab availability from 8 o'clock in the morning through 8 o'clock in the night. We're spending additional time after 8 o'clock to clean the areas and get them ready for the next day. We have some time also during the weekend, primarily on Sunday evenings. But what we encourage the students is that limit the time to visit the lab, primarily for either when your lab is scheduled to meet, specifically for your lab time, your lab session, and when you have to work physically in there to work with your prototypes. So if you're coming and looking for a space just to meet with your partners, we encourage you to use the online tools like Teams to do that and leave the space primarily for those that are fabricating and need the actual tools to working here safely. Safety is our primary purpose on this. Next. Talking about safety, there's a couple of things that you should know. First, when you're looking for materials or utilizing materials, there is what is called a safety data sheet. It provides information on what kind of hazard the material you might be exposed to using the materials. We encourage people to look at those before you start kind of ordering materials or starting using them if you're not familiar with them. Some of the pictograms in this slide shows what kind of information you may find in the safety data sheet. It might be like, for example, whether the material is flammable or not, whether it's corrosive, whether it's explosive, and depending on those, it will be important to know where to store the material. Obviously, materials that are flammable cannot be safely stored in the lockers that are provided for the student projects. Those are to go to a cabinet that is prepared for flammable materials and so forth. So make sure that you understand what the hazards are, not only for the materials, but also for the tools that you're utilizing, whether they're power tools or hand tools, and how you can be harmed. And if you don't know, just ask. I mean, we have undergrad TAs working during the time that the lab is open. You also have graduate TAs that are assigned to your particular project team, and you can kind of look at them and talk to them about the different hazards, or you can kind of come to our office and find us. We're also available through online media, so we're all connected to your project team, so you can also kind of find us in there. Again, just ask when you're in doubt. That's the best way for maintaining safety. Next, please. Emergency procedures. It's important to also understand what to do in the case of an emergency in our building. There are obviously situations where it might be a fire, it might be a tornado, it might be a chemical spill, and it's sometimes difficult to understand, should I evacuate or should I take cover? So, well, basically, it depends on really where you're listening to the alarm. If the alarm is being heard inside the building, it's probably telling you that you need to evacuate. And if you look at the diagram that is showing in the slide with a mark between arms and Armstrong and Push, that is the place where you are asked to go with your team to congregate and make sure that whoever you are with, whether it's a design lead, your team members, or your TA or your advisor, make sure that they know that you safely left the building. Otherwise, typically emergency personnel may come to us if we know of somebody that might be trapped, and if you're not accounted for, then people might think that you're still in the building, and the emergency personnel will have to go and look for you, and you be endangering themselves. If on the other side the alarm is heard on the outside of the building, then it's primarily telling you to go inside. Usually it is a safer place to go is the basement, but in some cases where there is a chemical spill, you may actually need to go to high ground because the material might be denser than air and you're going to low places. So it is important to sign up for Purdue alerts The link is right there, purdue.edu/secure-purdue, and you might be able to kind of enlist so you can get via email or text information on what is happening at Purdue, and then you'll get the right information at the right time. One of the situations that is unfortunately getting more common is about attackers and what to do. Run, hide, and fight refers to what to do in the case of an emergency of that nature. If you can leave safely and you know where the attacker is, and you can evacuate, then the best alternative is doing that. If for some reason you see that the attacker is actually, or you hear the attacker close to you, hiding in places, hiding in the rooms, going on their table, turning the lights off is probably the best alternative. And when you can lock the doors, that would be better. There are going to be, unfortunate situations where the attacker might be too close and you're not going to be able to have time or have the opportunity to hide. In those cases, especially if there are multiple of you, you may overcome the attacker by fighting. Those are usually some things that are hard to talk about. These are situations that are not easy to talk about. It is important as a team to talk about these things. So when it happens, or if it happens, that you have a way to come out successfully. So more things into this. Make sure that there is you pay attention to all the Purdue Protect signage in the building, and follow the instructions as well as where traffic direction, which door to use to come in, which door to use to come out, and making sure that you use the safety personal protective equipment at all times. Next. Gaining access to the lab, it may be important to you too. There are specific times where you can use your Purdue ID card to get in. To do that, you should go to Purdue Passport. The link is in the screen, and go through a safety quiz, safety materials, safety quiz, and after that, you'll be able to get some access to that. Obviously, that access is going to be limited to the time that the hours of the lab is open. Again, Monday through Thursday, 8 o'clock through 8 o'clock in the night, 8 o'clock in the morning through 8 o'clock in the night. Friday, 8 o'clock through 6, and then Sunday evening from 6 to 8. The computer lab is actually closed, but going through the engineeringpurdue.edu ECN website, you can find instructions on how to remotely access the computers in that room and the software that is available to you in there. Also, there are some tools that are in the lab that can be checked out. Make sure that you talk with your TA or undergrad TA to get information on how to do that.
Last but not least, in order to get credit for this professional development hour, you are going to need to log into your Team Brightspace page and complete the Intro to EPICS quiz. The answers to all the quiz have been given in this presentation, so you shouldn't have any trouble passing it. But you will need to go in and make sure to complete that quiz to get credit for completing this. Thank you so much. I hope that you all have an excellent semester. If you need anything at all, please feel free to reach out.